Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie. I am the kind of reader, predominantly, that I read one book at a time, and I like to do it with as little interruption as possible. Every now and then, though, I will hear about someone that reads multiple books at once, especially near the end of the year when people are talking about their reading habits and like how many books they read. And I saw a few people on my Instagram or YouTube that were talking about how they read multiple books at once, and I just am like in awe. There was even one girl on Instagram, I'll put this here if I can find it, but she says literally chapter by chapter she switches her books. Like she finishes a chapter, she moves to a different book. The thought of that is both so alluring but also seems so wrong to who I have always been. But like there's this tiny part that's like, maybe that is who I am. And so this week I want to experiment with juggling a bunch of different books at once. Each day I'm going to do it a little differently, and I'm going to add a book up into the air to juggle. Disclaimer, because I'm adding and juggling between a bunch of books and there's like different rules for each day, I might not finish a single book in this video. This is really about like experimenting the process of reading and a little less about the books I'm reading. But of course, I am me. I will be yapping about the books that I am starting or continuing in. I'm not really sure what like my hypothesis is. Let me hypothesize. I'm not a scientist, as you can tell. I am gonna guess, I'm gonna take my wild guess here and say I'm gonna fucking love this. I'm going to absolutely adore bouncing around as many books as possible, and I think I'm gonna like it like more and more books I add in. That's my guess. But I also am hypothesizing, again, I'm not sure if that's a word, I'm sorry, that I won't do it. Even, I don't know. I just can't imagine vlogging multiple books reading at the same time. Like, how would I update you? So part of me is like, is this experiment a total waste of my time? You know what? It's not, because it's fun, and that's really all I care about. I'm gonna challenge myself though. If I fall in love with this style of reading, I will try and vlog that way. I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's what an experiment is for. All right, let's go to phase one. Okay, phase one. It is Monday. I've just finished work. That's why I have all this energy. And as I said, I am going to be continuing 2 books that I am in the middle of, and I'm going to alternate between chapters. And those books are, oh my god, first of all, I haven't gotten a 5-star yet this year. It's only February, but like, ooh. And both of these books are 5-star predictions, and like 50 pages into both of them, they still feel like very strong contenders for my first 5-star of the year. I'm adoring the writing in both of these immensely. And for that reason, I think this is going to be the hardest to read these in this sort of concept, because these are exactly the kind of books where I just want to bury myself into them and completely get lost and just go on a ride. Highlight the fuck out of them, annotate them, like just be obsessed with them. I don't know if I'm going to be patient enough reading something that I love versus like the rest of this week I'll probably be picking up books that I haven't started yet. And as the week goes on, I'm going to be starting books that maybe I've been putting off. These though, I might not finish them today, and I won't. So weirdly enough, the first day I think is going to be the most difficult, or maybe the next day will, because I won't be necessarily continuing both of them. We'll see. I'm going to talk about these books after I finish. Let me just give you like a gist. The story is set in America, and one day all the white people just like go into a body of water and drown themselves. This book takes place a year after that event, and it follows a father and a daughter who have never met. And then this book is by the lovely Gillian Flynn. This was already a 5-star prediction just based on the other books that I've read of hers and absolutely adored, my favorite being Sharp Objects. This is a mystery. It is a little thrilling already just because this main character seems like really unlikable, which is just something I adore. When she was little, her whole family was massacred, like brutally. She said that it was her brother, who was 15 at the time. It's also bouncing back in time. So yeah, the experiment needs to begin. I'm getting a little carried away talking about books because I'm a nerd. What can I say? Okay, I've been reading a few hours, but I need to update you because I just wrote inside a library book, and it's because of this experiment of flipping back and forth between chapters. So before I get into the books, let's talk about the experiment. I really like flipping back and forth between chapters. It makes it very exciting. It keeps my energy level up, which was already pretty high, and then I got a monster, so like, you know. But I wasn't able to even wonder if I was getting tired because I was really excited to jump. Even more so because almost every single chapter, I started reading the next one in the same book, and then I was like, wait, I forgot. Cons for alternating chapters in the same day. I definitely read more slowly. I have been annotating pretty closely, which brings me to the next con of just like, ugh. I love writing in my little books. Just like a yikes here, underlines, exclamation points, a little LOL. I live for it. It keeps me really engaged in what I'm doing, and it makes it feel like I can laugh, especially when it's like some dark shit like this. And so because I want to read more library books, I got these transparent sticky notes so that I can put them in my book and then highlight and put little notes, and it's been going so great before today. Especially because this book is so underlinable. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but I'm loving the figurative language. The quotes in here are just so beautiful. It's so lyrical. And so I have been like able to annotate a library book, and then I'm thinking if this is like a 4 or 5 star, I can purchase the book and then transfer my little notes over, or I can type up these quotes when I have to return the book. But then switching back and forth, taking a break for dinner, kind of forgetting which one I'm supposed to be using transparent sticky notes on and which ones I am just going on the page. I made a mistake. The daughter in this story, we'll talk about her in a second, but she just said something kind of like, ugh. And I went to go write, oh wow, and I just put OW, and then I realized what I was doing. So I almost feel like I want to finish my sentence so that the next patron can see what I thought of this, but like they probably are just annoyed that I wrote in the book. So my verdict for alternating chapter, this is getting, I'd say, an A-, especially if it were like just my books and I didn't have to worry about defacing public property. I think especially if I weren't doing booktube, this would definitely be something I did, not even just with 2 books. I would do it for like 4 books at a time just for fun. It really is fun. But now I've come to a problem that I didn't even see coming, is that I talk so much about my books in these like updates when I'm vlogging, but now I'm talking about 2 books, so I either have to have this video be 100 years long for every single day, or I'm gonna need to try to make this concise, and I'm not very good at that. Let me try to be brief. This is sci-fi, this is mystery. As I said before, I'm really enjoying both of these types of writing, and they are very, very different, and I like them for very, very different reasons. Gillian Flynn, I love her writing. There's something so like gritty about it, so cynical. It's a little dramatic, but I eat that shit up. It's also just dry. It's like, and her characters are so unbelievably unlikable. I can't get enough of it. Like, I feel bad for this main character, but also she is a piece of work, and she's very much meant to be, so I don't feel uncomfortable like disliking her. I almost find her behavior amusing. This has also got like a lot of gory shit all at once. It was like, ooh, upsetting gory because they're talking about kids. And so it's very, very dark. I mean, the name tells you all you need to know. This, on the other hand, is very uplifting, and even though like one of the characters is really grating on me for like obvious reasons, she's supposed to be confrontational at this point, you can tell it's going to be a happy ending. You can tell that she's going to learn a lesson. And having only read 30 more pages than I had before, I am getting a little bit like, oh, it's very self-helpy almost, but it's like written in such a good way that I can't even be mad about it. The author's using so much personification, especially toward emotion, and that's something I just eat up. Charlie bit down on his emotions and held them under his tongue. He held his thoughts back until they surfaced as a sudden anxiety. Charlie liked the fear. So often having to overcome that prick of terror, he learned to find nobility in enduring it. There's a lot of quotes like that that'll like smack you in the face a little bit, but also it's creatively written, and there's also a lot of, what is it, like parallelism, where you do repeating sort of lines, and it creates a rhythm, but it also, I think I remember studying in college and how that's how a lot of sermons are built or like structured, so that there's like a repetitiveness, and I find that really interesting. Here's an example, although like this isn't like very uplifting. One of our main characters, Charlie, is drunk in his office dealing with, I don't want to diagnose him, but it seems like he has PTSD. He lay on the floor of his office, silence as warm as a blanket, and drank, yawning and slipping in and out of sleep, in and out of the past, in and out of who he was and who he was becoming, in and out of rising to the potential of this new world and putting a bullet in his head. Yikes, but also beautiful. He's been in prison, but since this whole thing happened, he's gotten out, and he was wrongly convicted, might I add. But anyway, now he's a professor in DC, and he gets this phone call from his estranged daughter, and she is clearly not a fan of his, but they've also never spoken, and she just says, "You owe me. I need you to drive me down to like Alabama to to the south where it's apparently very dangerous. And then she won't tell him her name and she like just hangs up on him. And he just does it. I think she's 18 or 19 and she is just really going through a lot. The second chapter is a memory of her witnessing her like mother and her stepdad and her half brothers come into this trance, and she watches them drown and she's like physically trying to keep them away. It was so heartbreaking. She says something that just really skewered me. She followed them underwater until she could no longer breathe and swam back up for air, until she could no longer see anything in those depths, until she no longer had strength to keep diving down. And she tried, swimming, screaming, fighting. She tried her very best to drown herself along with them, to feel what they felt as she had been trying to all her life. Like, I'm literally tearing up just reading that. That's really heartbreaking. And it's also heartbreaking because even in that memory where she is, I was gonna say convinced, she is happy, but like you can tell that she does not feel proud of who she is, and it's really just sad to read about. But then in the next chapter, she is so rude to her dad. Not even if he were her dad, but just as a human being, she is so mean, and it's really, really frustrating and hard to like, I know she's gonna learn a lesson, and I know her and her dad both feel like they have nothing, and so they're gonna hopefully find themselves. Like, we know if this is giving happy morality story, they are gonna love each other by the end. But just the way she's talking about you heathens, I can't believe she's talking to him like this. It's so frustrating, and I get that she's angry that he left her. She has no idea that he was even in prison. She has no idea anything about him. She just thinks that he left her. And I think I am being extra judgy with her because I can relate to that. My dad left when I was like 2. I would never talk to him like this. Even knowing what I know about him, although last I heard he's sober because of medical reasons, so like best of luck to him. I hope he's doing well, but like I would never talk to someone like this. She literally like points a gun in his face the first time she lays eyes on him. I just can't. I can't. And I'm trying to think about it like she's been through the fucking ringer. She had to witness her whole family killing themselves. She's been trapped, or not trapped, but she has been trapped. But she's been in this big old house in this neighborhood where there are no other people, no black people, no people in her exact situation. And she's been so scared because she's been taught shit by her parents who, it's really like, it's frustrating, okay? Clearly. But it's meant to be. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to be patient with her. She's clearly got some internalized racism because she's been taught horrible shit by probably horrible people. It's just how she talks to other people. Like, they are at an airport now, and she just kind of like moves her dad aside and starts talking like a Karen to like the lady. I have no patience for this young woman. I'm sorry. But I am excited for her to see that there is more to life than how she has been living, and to see her fully accept herself, to accept her dad, because he's a good man, and like he's already saved her, and she's already like, she knows that he will keep her safe. Like, they've known each other for a day and she knows that inherently. I'm like, bitch, you better be nice to Charlie. Anyway, okay, I've talked way too long and now I'm uncomfortable. So let's talk about this dark ass book. And let me be more brief because there's a little less things to say about this as of right now. Libby this entire time has been living off of like donations of people who felt sorry for her. And it's just interesting because we meet her as her money has dried up. She's like almost broke. It's hilarious. She's talking about other like murders, mass murders, or things that happened to other girls her age at the same time. What does she say? I immediately thought about that other little tabloid girl, Jamie something, who'd lost her family the same year, 1985. She'd had part of her face burned off in a fire her dad set that killed everyone else in her family. Anytime I hit the ATM, I think of that Jamie girl and how if she hadn't stolen my thunder, I'd have twice as much money. Like, I can't not laugh at that. Like, that's funny, but like, and so it's kind of interesting because like Libby, I have hope for Sydney. She's young. She's been taught, like I said, backwards things from backwards people, and there's hope for her. You can tell she has it in her to accept herself and other people. But Libby, I don't know about her. She's giving sociopath. And yet, like, I'm laughing with and at this character, but I'm frustrated with this character. So I'm feeling a little weird about that, but it's also a very different type of tone. So I'm just gonna go with it. I'm enjoying both of them. The plot of this, I think, is gonna get better and better because now she's at the point to get money. She's going to exploit her and her family's past to a weird true crime obsessed group called like the Killer Club. And she's going to have them pay her to like look into this murder, talk to her brother, talk to her deadbeat dad, talk to people that she's trying to forget this whole time. And she's doing it from a very weird place. And it's kind of sad that I find her so unlikable because of the things that she's saying. But she's also been through a horrible trauma. She survived this killing. She saw the dead bodies of her family right in front of her. And she's had to bounce around people growing up. And she talks about how she was like a really pill of a kid to like the people that were trying to care for her. So I know she has like all this trauma and I got hair in my mouth. So yeah, let me just give it up to authors who can write fucking beautifully in very different ways, but also for very layered characters. I do love peeling them away and getting to the heart of them, but seeing a bunch of different sides. That's my spiel. That went on for way too long, didn't it? Tomorrow, I will see you after work for our audio, physical, ebook format portion of the experiment. And I think for the physical, I will keep reading Sky Full of Elephants because I need to return this. This I can read after because it's mine, which is why I wrote in it. I'm so sorry to the Hawaii State Public Library. Hello, welcome to day 2 of the experiment. I have to be completely honest. I'm having one of those days where every single thing I think and do and say and breathe, I just want to strangle myself. I am so annoyed with myself and for no reason. But I refuse to be sidetracked from this experiment because the last few vlogs I've scrapped. And so I need to get something out and I need to gain momentum for myself. So we're persevering, but with a lot less energy than yesterday. So I'm sorry in advance if I'm more self-deprecating than usual today, or just like, that's what's happening inside of my spirit right now. Today, I'm so sorry for anyone who's new to my channel and you're like, God damn, this girl's a little... You would be absolutely correct. I'm going to be switching between 3 different formats today, physical, audio, and ebook. And it's almost 3 p.m. I've finished work, thank God. I guess to make this even, we can say that I'll start reading at 3, LOL, let's see if that happens. And I'll read until 9 p.m., giving me 6 hours of reading. So every 2 hours, I need to shift to a different format. So let me quickly choose my books. I'm going to continue, as I said last night, Sky Full of Elephants for physical. And then I know my girl Allie Hazelwood just came out with a book today. I was like refreshing my library app every couple of minutes, and the second it was available, it was scooped up by like 39 people. So I think I'm just gonna have to buy it myself, but I don't want to wait to get a physical book. So I'm wondering, should I do audio or ebook? I really do like the audio narrator for all of her other books, so maybe I should do it that way. But also, there's just something so fun and like kicking my feet about an ebook. Reading like a romance especially, I don't know what it is. So I think I'll go with that. And then let me look at my library loans I have for any audiobooks that I can listen to. Maybe I'll start the new Grady Hendrix book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. Should I? I'm a little nervous about that. It's a 16-hour audiobook, but you gotta start somewhere. And I will be starting with Allie Hazelwood. I need to get my spirits up. Let's go. Alright, it's been 6 hours and let's talk about the experiment before the books again. This was definitely more successful than yesterday in terms of like pages read, and it did cure my bad mood. I read around 214 pages, which is like 35 pages an hour, which is better than I've done in a couple months, honestly. And I wonder if it's because I started with Allie Hazelwood, because her books honestly give me energy, and I think I've been needing something really fun like that. I do think that contributed to the rest of the evening and how like diligently I read. I don't know, maybe it's also because I had less energy, I was less hyper, so I was able to focus more. I'm not sure. The results are inconclusive. Yesterday's take was that it was really fun to do it like chapter by chapter. Today was not as fun, and I found myself wanting to either stay with the book way more or wanting to move on more quickly. So I think if I had a choice between alternating between chapter and alternating between format, I think I would take the chapter, even if I was changing the formats, although that seems like a lot of work, like getting out my Kindle, making sure my headphones are charged, and then like switching. I don't know the logistics of that, but also it was so successful that I do want to try this again at some other point. Okay, now into the books, and I'm gonna try to be even briefer than I was yesterday, and I wasn't that brief, which is like why I need to like out. So please tell me to shut up. I got to 13% of Deep End, which is about 60 pages, which is wild because that's like just under the entire page count of yesterday. What was going on yesterday? But I did not want to put this down. I think it's because like romance as a genre is very predictable, and that's kind of like why I love it, other than all the other stuff that is like promised in it and all the dopamine you get from a romance because it's happy, but also like you're waiting for the connection to happen. And so it's almost like a thriller because like you're thrilled to see the sort of cliff you're about to jump off of, or you know something is about to happen, so there's like a sense of anticipation and excitement. And it was like just when I think the love interests were actually gonna start talking to each other, and it's like, damn, I can't put it down, but I did. This is Allie's first sports romance. The main character is also studying, I think, medicine, or she wants to be a doctor, so there's still a little bit of like science in there. Our main character is a junior, and she seems different than a lot of the other main characters of her books that I've read. She seems a little bit more quiet, more reserved, and she is a competitive diver for Stanford, I think she goes to. So it's like serious shit. There's Olympians that are in her classrooms, which is just a wild concept to me. In her freshman year of college, she had an injury, and so she is physically doing better, but psychologically she's still recovering from that, and she's like psyching herself out. So she's going to therapy. We're getting some sort of info dumping through that, but also it's like very needed. And then the romance is going to be based on the synopsis between her and the captain, I think, of the swim team, and he's like a big deal in the community. But I didn't realize that this was gonna be a little messy because in the beginning of this book he is dating her friend, the captain of the diving team, and like she is I wish that was in the synopsis because like I love a good mess, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be messy because I think they might be in an open relationship. I don't know. We're gonna find some stuff out. Uncharted territory for Allie. And I also think, it's weird to say Allie, sorry. I think we're also going to explore sort of BDSM, which is also new for Allie, but she does say, again, I'm trying not to talk too much. The character says, truth is, I don't feel totally comfortable doling out BDSM terms either. Like any other community, I cradle an assortment of doubts on whether I have what it takes to truly belong. Labels have to be earned, and my pockets always seem too empty to pay up, which just beautiful writing there, Allie. But also, I think that's a really interesting note on this subject matter, and she's talking to it with her friend, whose boyfriend she's about to bang. Sorry. And her friend is just kind of like weirded out about the whole thing, and she's like, this is so 50 Shades, which is a little funny, okay? So yeah, I'm very intrigued, and I definitely want to keep reading, but I also want to see her get stronger. I like that Allie always has some personal growth, like outside of the relationship for her characters. Then I turned to Sky Full of Elephants. I read 50 pages in here, and it was kind of a weird thing because the chunk specifically that I read was very slow paced. It was like all about they were waiting for something and then they were traveling. So it just wasn't that interesting, like plot wise, what was going on. It was kind of stagnant. And then there were things happening with the characters that made no sense. I'm mostly talking about Sydney, the daughter. She just bugs me, and she seemed to have learned her lesson in like a few hours. I was so frustrated by it because that morning, maybe this is spoilery things. If you don't want to know any information about this book, fast forward until I'm stopped holding it up. I'm not going to spoil anything, but just like little details that you might want to read for yourself if you're going to read this. But literally that morning she meets her dad. She is about to literally shoot and kill a child just because he's black. She's like that level of racism. And then later that night, she seems to be comfortable going out with a black person who's her age, and she just decides to be friends with them. She goes out into the city that she was scared of just 10 minutes ago, and now like she wakes up in the morning and she's nice to her dad, and I'm just like, and she doesn't really apologize for being a racist. She says, I'm sorry, she sort of apologizes for being rude, and all she says is, my mom taught me to be better than that. She taught me good manners. And I'm like, I don't think she taught you that. I think she taught you something else. And I was so angry because I'm like, is that all we're gonna get about this transition or this realization, this acceptance? Like, but I don't think she's done, because now they've gone to a different location, a different bunch of people are around them, and she's being very rude. These people like offer her food and she tries it, and they don't even ask her what she thinks, but she feels that it's appropriate to tell them that it tastes like garbage. And she says something to them that she said to her dad just the day before about how you people don't belong here, that this stuff isn't yours, it doesn't belong to you. And I am so sick of her because it's just, I get she's grappling with a lot because of how she grew up, but it's like, I don't know how you can come back from that. I really don't. And I don't know. I will say I laughed because one new character literally said to her, very calmly, very collected, "Hear me when I tell you, my mother taught me how to be kind and generous. Treat others how I wanted to be treated. What did your mother teach you?" I laughed out loud. Sydney didn't take that too lightly. She got very angry, and I think she needed to be told that. She needed to hear that. But I think at this point, and why things wrapped up so quickly between her and her father, is because I think we're about to jump into some sci-fi shit, and I'm so excited for that. But at the same time, I feel like that whole first half of the book might end up feeling like a whole separate story, and the way that that part of it concluded with like her behavior, and I don't know, that was like a great transition. And I don't know. She's also feeling so much younger than how she's supposed to be, and just some of the dialogue that she has feels kind of YA, but maybe it's just because she was so sheltered and ignorant, and I don't know. I'm being frustrated with her character, which again is like the point. So I'm definitely not mad about that, but if like we don't get a better divulging into her like struggle of her own inner self, I'm gonna be a little frustrated. Charlie continues to be a fucking angel, and I love him so much, and he's so patient with Sydney, and he loves her like without even questioning. He seems patient with everyone though. He's just a good person, and I love reading through his point of view, but also like I can't wait because I know shit's about to get weird. Then I read 7% of Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I think it was like 30 pages or something, and like, ooh. First of all, the first sentence, like audiobook, made me laugh out loud, and then like the rest of the paragraph was actually kind of depressing, and I felt a little bad for laughing, but like I think Grady wanted me to giggle. Me specifically, of course. She didn't think things could get any worse, and then she saw the sign, "Welcome to Florida." I'm from Florida, and that is just like very true and very funny. But this is a story about, I think it takes place in the 70s, and it's following a teenage girl who's pregnant, whose like father is a dipshit, and he's taking her to this home for like pregnant girls who are like unwed, and it's just really toxic and horrible and backwards thinking. And it's interesting like having gone into this book, and I do like that. Sorry, back to the experiment. When I'm reading books at the same time, like several, like I have been today, but even yesterday, I see different themes, or maybe because I'm paying attention to a theme in a certain book, I have that sort of like tunnel in my brain open to see into other books. And so to see different similarities weaving my books together, it just makes me so happy. And I, especially today, really saw a lot of similar themes. So that's been fun. But I will say this book, Witchcraft, stressful, and you want to punch everyone except like the girls. Her father's awful. The boy who impregnated her is awful. His parents are awful. The matron of the school is like creepy level awful. And it's going to be one of those reads that is just horribly frustrating, and that's going to be the main emotion. I need to take my time. That would be a book that I'd want to read chapter in between other things, because it's just a lot to like, ugh. So yeah, I had to switch it because I was like, I don't want to listen to this for 2 hours long. So then I switched to this book called Good Girl. I talked about this a little bit in, I think it came out in January, my January new releases video. And it's about this like party girl who lives in, I think, modern day Germany, and her parents are from Afghanistan. And the real hook of, I think, the synopsis, let me try to remember, was that it was a story about surviving the mistakes of your youth, and how like our main character just knew that she was a disappointment to her family, but like in a funny haha kind of way. And I think within the first chapter, she said something like, "I was ravaged with the hunger to ruin my life," said so casually as she's going into like a dance club in Berlin. We see her partying, we see her taking a lot of recreational drugs, she's in her brat era, she meets an insufferable middle-aged white man who is going to absolutely wreak havoc on her brain, and I'm like, ugh. But I also love those stories because they are so powerful in like our main character finding independence and like learning more about herself and trusting herself. I love those kind of stories. It's giving acts of desperation, but then you get so much juice and like layered things about her family. I think we're going to talk a lot about that because I don't actually know too much about modern day Germany. And actually she mentioned something about Obama being in office, so I think this is a little bit in the past but like still in modern day, but I don't really know too much much about Germany, and apparently there's a lot of racism happening over there towards like Muslim people, and it's appalling some of the things she's talking about. And this is definitely one, first of all, the audio book and the narrator is just doing a wonderful job, so I definitely would like to keep going with the audiobook, but I also have the e-arc, and it's going to definitely benefit me to read it at the same time. First of all, I like doing that. It tickles something in my brain when I have all sorts of media at the same time, but also I think it'll help me highlight certain things because she's talking about different either political things or like even fights or wars or some things that are happening that I don't know about because I'm dumb and I've been educated in Florida. So I would like to look more into some things and like be able to even just remember some of the names of things she's talking about. But she touches on like when her parents first immigrated here and how, well, not here, in Germany, and how badly they were treated, but also how hard it was for them to find a place to live, to even find work. And so there's very intense and very profound things that she's saying, but also she does feel kind of like Sydney. Again, I'm seeing threads here. How she is like a sort of ashamed about her heritage and her race, not only because she doesn't feel like she fits in, sort of like Sydney, but also she doesn't feel safe talking about her being Afghan. And so like when someone asks her, where are you from? And she's like, I'm from Berlin. And then they ask her again because they're fucking racist. She's like, oh, I'm from Greece, because she doesn't know how they're going to react and she doesn't feel safe like talking about who she is as a person. And so you see all this profound and like very meaty shit, but also she's like going clubbing and like hooking up with strangers and feeling like an insecure girl that is like waiting for this dumb white dude to pay her attention. And it's like, I am going to absolutely love the juggling of that. And this is told, I think, 10 years in the future. So we're getting sort of insight to her thoughts on herself. And I love that kind of like time traveling. Plus, this is beautifully written and I really want to underline different things. So I might just have to buy this book. Okay, that's what I've been reading. It's been a wonderful day of reading and I'm so glad I continued in this and I didn't put it off for a day or anything because I got a lot of shit from all of my books today. And honestly, even though like I'm reading some powerful shit, before bed, I gotta read some more Ali Hazelwood. So I will see you tomorrow. We are going to be tackling reading in different locations, which I'm very excited about because my back kind of hurts from sitting in the same spot all night. Let's do the transition again. I'll see ya. Welcome to day 3, where I'm going to be alternating the books I read based on the location I'm in. This one didn't seem like it was going to be that big of a deal, but now that it's time to do it, I'm like, wait a minute, what? So it's already 4 o'clock, but I finally figured out how to organize this in an interesting way because I don't usually read in too many locations within a week, let alone like a single day. I mostly just read on my couch or I just read on my bed. But I thought it would be fun to base the location that I'm reading on the people on the covers, like what they're doing and correlate it to what I'm doing. So like these books, they're in a bed. So I will choose one of these while I am sitting in my bed. I'm not going to be standing on my bed reading, but like she's on a bed, okay? If I had stairs, I honestly think I would read on them so I could read last to leave the room. If I had a bathtub, you know my ass would be reading Mary. And if the weather was nicer, I could go to the beach and read a couple of these. Now, it does kind of limit some of my options because I feel like people on the cover is very prevalent in certain genres, mostly romance or general fiction. There's also is some horror, like people in a doorway. I have a lot of doorways, but I'm not going to read it sitting in a doorway or standing in a doorway, sorry. So I do have a lot of romance options. First of all, for a chair, because we need to come up with more than just 2 options for me. I've got real. They're sitting in like a director's chair. I don't have one of those, but this chair looks just as uncomfortable, so maybe that one. And then I have a couple romances where they're on like chairs/stools leaning on a bar. Also similar colors, interesting. So I think I'm actually gonna start all of these while I sit in my chair. Not that one actually, that one's too uncomfortable. I have a very comfy chair, I'll show you in a minute. These are gonna be my options for bed. I have a couple options for desk, daydream, and just my type. And then I am gonna go outside and bring an umbrella to this picnic table. And because I do want to venture outside of romance at some point today, I am going to bring with me Tress of the Emerald Sea. She's walking outside. I have to walk to the picnic table. So like while I won't be walking walking and reading, I don't think anyone is actually gonna care that I am not perfectly aligning with this, but give me a break. And then, oh my god, I just remembered I had the neck alley for Hungerstone, and this bitch is fainting on a couch. So this is what I will be reading on my couch. So yeah, I have a lot of options here, and I am excited about that. I wasn't expecting to start like a whole bunch of books today. I thought I might continue in the books that I've been reading, but I have a lot of energy today. I'm like up and down, as you can tell, and I am feeling antsy, so I want to try a bunch of different things. I'm excited for today. I need to get the ball rolling though before the storm rolls in, before the sun goes away, before time ends and I have to wake up and go to work again. Ew. So we're gonna start with Tress. This is a 5-star prediction, so very excited. Day 3 is over. It's only 7:30. It feels like 11 p.m. And I wasn't sure that I would have that much insight in today's experiment, but I have definitive results of today's experiment, and that is I hated this. I did not like switching up my environment or my location while I was reading, and I thought I wanted to read new stuff, but I think because of the changing of locations, I might have been better off just reading what I had already started. But I think the actual biggest problem was that I am so distracted all the time. But because I mostly read on the couch, I know the things around me. I'm not like looking at random shit. But like being in other places that I'm not used to reading as much, I'm looking around, I'm not quite comfortable, I don't have like a cozy way that I'm sitting, and it's just distracting, especially being outside, obviously. There are just so many birds and there's dogs walking by, and I'm just like loving it. I'm like enjoying the moment, especially outside, but like I'm not really focusing very well. So I'm glad that this taught me something, that I need to be in a place that's very familiar, I need to be cozy. And it's funny that I thought reading a bunch of different things would invigorate me, and I'm sure if I sat on my couch and did this, it would have, but it almost had the opposite effect. I am so tired despite all of the caffeine that I've had and how early it is, but like after this, I think, well, I'm gonna read a little bit more of the Ali Hazelwood book, but then I'm gonna go to sleep like at 8. But I did start a bunch of books that I have been meaning to start for honestly years, and I liked breaking that ice. There are a few standouts, so let me show you. I think the real winner was Tress. This is just written so energetically. It's like a fairy tale, but the narration is very inclusive. Like we're sort of being talked to, and sometimes that irritates me, but this time it's just a delight. So the narrator is like, perhaps you were surprised that blah 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 blah, and then they go on to say, well, this isn't the part of the story where you ask questions, so kindly keep them to yourself. I laughed out loud. I giggled. This is a story about a young girl. She's called Tress because her hair is kind of wild, and she lives on this sort of rock. It's like a small island, and the ocean is green. They haven't explained that, but I've heard other people talk about this, so I kind of understand what's going on. But there's also a bunch of moons. We're in a fantasy world, and I think this is in some sort of multiverse. I forget what it's called. It's like Brandon Sanderson's like famous universe, whatever. I have started The Way of Kings. I've been like 150 pages in for the past year and a half. Grant and I have been like reading it out loud. I say we have been. We did that for about a couple weeks, and then we haven't done it since. It's on our bucket list this year. That writing is a little much. It's a lot. There's a lot of detail. This one is just so fun. It's like such a different writing style. It's so playful. I think that's a great word to describe it. And so I cannot wait to read this book. I think Tress has this romance with the guy who owns like the big house on this island. He's the son of a duke, and she like washes his windows, so there's like a class difference, and I don't think they're allowed to be together. Where I stopped reading was like something was about to shift, and I think he was gonna go away, and I don't even remember what this story is about. I didn't read like the backs of any of these books, but it was kind of a little cliffhanger, so I can't wait to dive back in. These two books, I completely forgot that they are depressing as fuck, and so reading a chapter of each of these. I think I read 2 chapters of this. I was like, oh God, I need something to pick me up. But when I'm in the mood, I know I'm gonna love these. And then moving on to the romances, lots of blues and purples. All 4 of these had the main character breaking up in the first chapter. And something about me, I love a breakup and then falling in love story. I love it when someone is just at their lowest and they pick themselves up and then they allow themselves to fall in love. This one stood out because there was some drama. In the prologue of the girl's point of view, I think we get both of theirs throughout the book, but she walks into her house to find her fiance and her sister telling her that they're gonna have a baby and they've been cheating with each other for the past 2 years. That definitely woke me up, so wow. And then another standout was Just My Type, which is crazy because I can't even remember buying this book and I don't remember hearing about it. I don't remember what it's about. I think it's like a workplace romance if the cover's telling me anything. But in the first chapter, she's getting dumped and she references Legally Blonde because she's like, this is an Elle Woods moment. She thought she was about to get proposed to and she ends up getting dumped. And she is snarky. I love it. I really liked her energy. She says something. She's chugging her martinis and this dude has dumped her. She literally says, I'm sorry, why are you still here? This book, I was very excited to read as a standalone. I started Icebreaker. I actually really enjoyed it, but my library loan was up and I just never ended up finishing it. I think I definitely want to read the rest of the series before I get to this one because I think we're gonna get teased at least his character throughout it, and I would like to get to know this character before, since apparently we're gonna get a lot of him in the other books in the series. And then this one, I mean, I knew I would like this. I think Emily Henry's first half of her books are always 5 stars for me, and then I kind of get lost in the second half. So like, I know this is gonna be at least a 4-star. This one seems, I don't know, maybe it's because it's been a couple years since I read an Emily Henry book, but it almost seems lighter and like funnier. I think in this story, both of the main characters have like very long-term partners. She's engaged and her fiance goes on his bachelor trip. The next day breaks up with her and ends up getting with his ex-girlfriend. So they like swap partners and I think they're gonna end up fake dating. But in the first chapter that I read, they're roommates just because they sort of needed someone to live with and help pay the rent, or just needed a place to live, and they don't really talk to each other. They seem complete opposites. I cannot wait. And I think it's leaning toward her being black cat, him being dog, or golden retriever, not just dog, sorry. She does describe him as a chocolate Labrador, but then she says the toll of the last 3 weeks has given him a slightly feral edge. A Labrador bitten by a werewolf and dumped back at the pound. I love it. And then of course, I started Hungerstone. I have the arc, so you don't get to see the cover. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Sorry, editing Allie. She hates to do any kind of work. Oh my God. Literally the first sentence of this got my blood pumping again. I've been obsessed with vampire shit the past month. I did a whole vlog on it and I'm gonna do another one because this just won't leave me. I thought I was over it. I'm never gonna be over it, okay? First sentence. It starts with blood. This is a Carmilla retelling. Let me save editing Allie a second and go grab the book. I read this last month. I absolutely loved the first half of it. Honestly, like the first 75% of it, and then the ending was so fucking lame. So I am craving a story that does it a little bit different. This one's following a teenage girl, and then another girl comes. She lives with her father. This story is following a 30-year-old woman. She lives with her husband, and I think another woman's gonna come. And I think it's gonna be a little bit more salacious than this one. Let's hope. In this first chapter, she gets her period. That's the blood she's talking about, but she references blood a lot. She cuts her finger on a glass. She remembers like her wedding night with her husband and she didn't bleed, and he made her like prick her finger and put it on the sheets to like prove it to everyone. This is in like the past. I don't know exactly when it's set, but I'm guessing around the same time period as this. I think this was like 1871, so in the 1800s, I'm guessing. And I think this also helped wake me up because I do love a retelling, especially when I read like the original thing not too long ago, so that I can like compare and contrast, see all the differences that the new author is making, and I'm just getting so excited. So I think I'm gonna have to do another vampire vlog. That's what also this experiment has taught me. And honestly, talking about all these books, I have to remember, vlogging sometimes also just excites me and wakes me up. So maybe I won't go to bed. Maybe I'll read some more of this. No, I have to read more of the Allie Hazelwood book. I read a lot more last night. I'm having so much fun with it. No one is shocked. Tomorrow, I'm hoping we do better for the experiment. But again, like I feel like I got a lot that I learned out of today. So I guess that was the point. But tomorrow, I'm hoping we get like positive results instead of of just like learning about what I don't like. Tomorrow we're doing something I'm so excited for, which is I'm going to be reading different time periods and switching between books in that way. And I think I'll go in chronological order, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Welcome to day 4, where I'm alternating books based on their time period. This one I am the most intrigued about, and honestly, I could have done an entire video on this just for fun, like as a theme. And I think this is going to be much more successful than yesterday, because yesterday was based on like my life, which like, ew, that's not why I read. I want to focus on something else. Whereas focusing on the actual things in the book is going to have me more excited to jump around. So I have 5 different eras. I was going to read a Greek mythology book, but I realized it was nonfiction, and I am very excited to read it. Let me show it to you. It's Divine Might by Natalie Haynes, but it's actually the second book. It says it's like a follow-up to another book. I had no idea. I just bought this at like Walmart one day. So I'm going to want to read that one first, then get to this. I love mythology though, not just Greek, other types of mythology. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. So instead, I am deciding to start Lapvona. Now I've heard some wild things about this, not just like fun wild, but actually disturbing things about this that I didn't know previously. So I'm nervous to read this, but also the people who love it, some of the other books that they love are things I love. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna love or hate this. This doesn't say exactly when it's set, but everyone agrees that it's set in the medieval times, which I think is around like 500. Can you imagine being like, oh yeah, the year is 500. Happy New Year, bitch. I think this is a lamb, right? And I think she talks. I think she like helps take care of the children and like feeds them her milk. I'm scared about some of the things I've heard about it now that it's been out for a while. I don't think I'll be getting into that right away, so maybe this is a perfect time to start it so I can get a taste of the vibe, you know? We'll see. Next, I thought we would jump to the 1800s, mostly because I just got this beautiful copy of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I just recently read The Favorites, and while I had fun with this and there was lots of drama, there's a lot lacking in it. I give it 3.5. You can check out this video if you want more details. But it's actually a Wuthering Heights retelling, and I was thinking like, wow, if there weren't figure skating in here, if there weren't this excessive time jumping around in this, I think I'd actually really like the story at like the fundamental part of it. So I'm ready for some 1800s toxic bullshit. Then moving on to the 1900s, I have a lot of things I want to read for the 1900s, so I'm not too sure about this. So I have 2 here that are supremely chunky, therefore intimidating to me, and I kind of have high hopes for them. So I'm gonna break the ice and I'm gonna read the first couple chapters. We'll see what the vibe is of both of these books. Pachinko, I think I'm gonna like an all-time favorite. This is another reason why it's so intimidating, is because I know I'm gonna love this. Like I'm not even questioning it. I don't know why I'm so scared of things I think I'm gonna like. This one starts like in the 1900s and goes all the way down or up. Does time even have a direction? This one is set in the 1940s. It's around World War II, but it's set in Russia, which is interesting. The majority, if not all, of the World War II stories that I've read all take place in like England or Germany or France. I've never had anything set in Russia, and I have been craving a Russian story, and I'm realizing now it's because I've been thinking about all the vampire books that I've ever read, and there's one that's set in Russia, and it was just like so rich in atmosphere, and I was like, yes, I want some Russia, but I think I actually just want vampires. So we're gonna try this out anyway. This is like a historical romance, I'm pretty sure. Then I'm moving on to modern times, or like now, the 2000s. I am so close to finishing Deep End, and I want to talk to you about it. It's fun, but I feel the third act conflict coming, and I'm like not excited about it. That's usually where Allie loses me in her books, but that's okay because the rest of it has been so fun. And then when I finish that, I'm gonna continue Sky Full of Elephants. Now there isn't an exact date that this is set in that they say, but it feels very current, and I think that's so fascinating, and I think that is also so powerful because it's not one of those books where it's like, oh yeah, 100 years ago white people treated black people so horribly. It's like, no, this is now, this is happening right now. So this does feel very, very current, like it could happen tomorrow. And finally, I'm going to read a book set in the future, and I have a few sci-fi books that I could have picked, but I'm feeling a little left out from everyone that got to read Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. This is a Hunger Games prequel, and I believe it's following the romance of like President Snow, who's the evil bad dude in the Hunger Games. So I'm gonna go in chronological order, starting with Lapvona. Where is she? Here she is. Oh god. So yeah, we shall see how the experiment goes. I'll see you in a little bit.
I've been thinking, but I'm not thinking about you. I've been thinking, don't think I think of you.
Okay, I need to be a little quiet because I ended up reading pretty late and Grant is asleep, God bless his little soul. I ended up reading 209 pages, although half of that was in the Allie Hazelwood book. But overall level of enjoyment, this was so much fun. And I wonder, because we need all of the information up front, this is a professionally done experiment, obviously. I wonder how much of like excitement and joy and like amount of reading I did was because I know I don't have to work tomorrow. That is something to think about, and that's something I think about every video I make. My job is just getting in the way, but I will be keeping it because I need food and I need to pay my bills. Anyway, as for the particulars of today based on like time period, era, if that made a particular difference as opposed to like changing chapters or genres or locations. First of all, that location one, I still can't get over how much of a fail that was. I'm glad we had like an outlier. Is that correct in me saying that? I don't know. I think it did add to the interest level today and the engagement because there were some it's getting late. There were some stark differences. First of all, the Middle Ages. I need some more Middle Ages books. I also need some ancient recommendations. Like I'm thinking romance because that's where my heart goes to, but like also horror. Just nothing boring. If you have any, let me know. But I love the Middle Ages because there's some weird religious stuff happening in this book. And I'm sure like in real life, there was some weird shit going on. And like, not being a white man back in those days probably sucked. But it's interesting how like in ancient times and medieval times, people are just humans and they wear what they have, they eat what they have, they behave like animals almost. Oh, is that weird? I feel like I'm offending some people from the medieval era, but like y'all are from the 20th century at least. And then as time goes on, we get a little blip and people have to be really buttoned up and there's all these rules and there's all these constraints on society and like, and then it kind of chilled out again and it's getting chiller. And so I wonder like all throughout time if we'll see, well, we won't, we'll be fucking dead, if there will be more ups and downs like that. And I definitely am kind of the person who is more unhinged and hates the thought of political constraint. So I think that's why I'm craving some, I feel weird holding this book up because it was a little disturbing just from what I read, but it was written very well. But I need some more like unruly times to read about, like ancient, I'm talking cavemen. I want some cavemen or cave women. I'd rather read about women back in those days because I'm gonna move on to the next subject. So it was interesting seeing those kind of ups and downs, especially like with Wuthering Heights, because I think this is the only book that was actually written in the time that it's set, somewhere in the first half of the 1800s. That's insane that we have this. Isn't that so cool? Like obviously I've read things from before the 15th century and really old like Middle English that I didn't even understand, but it just like is crazy that a lot of people read this book that's just hundreds of years old. It's so cool. And then the two books that I started for the 19th century, no, the 20th century? Sorry, I'm not good at history, geography, science, anything really except for reading little juicy little drama books. But these were very similar. They are a similar genre, they're historical, but they also revolve around family. But it was kind of cool seeing the parallel things going on. Both countries were at war while this narrator was introducing us to things. They revolved around family who were nice, but also complicated. So that was kind of cool. Mostly I just had fun reading and I was very focused. So this was a good one. This was a good one for me and I'll definitely be trying it again. Let me talk a little bit more about the books. Again, I'll try to be brief because I need to shut up so I'm not disturbing my neighbors or my husband. Lapbona, why did I think there were talking animals in this book? Like, where did I get that? I hope that's not a spoiler, but like, I don't think it's going to be in the book. I was giggling so hard when I found out that they talk about this woman named Ina, and I just assumed it was a lamb. They are mentioning lambs like really often throughout just the 30 pages that I read this, like lamb's milk, lamb's teats. I love the word teat. Should I have said that? I don't think they eat the lambs, but they breed them and they consume a lot of the milk in their meals. And I feel like there's something going on with the lambs, and I'm coming up up with some conspiracy theories, which is one of my favorite things to do when I'm reading books. I like the sort of bird's eye view. We have a third person narration, but it's kind of weaving out of perspective without like going into first person. I do love that. Thank you, Virginia Woolf, for teaching me that. But yeah, there's like a dad in here. He's abusive. It sucks. He has a 13-year-old son who's one of the main characters, if not the main character, I think, maybe, question mark. And he like loves being abused by his dad because he's abused and he's like obviously traumatized, but it's the only time like after that his dad is kind to him. But also I think he wants to die to like go to God and to go to his mother who he thinks is dead. But actually I'm pretty sure his father like kidnapped her and just R-worded her and she ran away. So she's still alive. But yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. But also Tasha, I always call her Otesha because my brain cannot comprehend the SH and the SS. I don't know what it is. I say Otesha Mosfeg. Otessa is such a wonderful writer. I've never given her an official 5-star. I gave My Year of Rest and Relaxation 4.5, and I gave Death in Her Hands a 4. And we'll see about this because this one seems so different. Both of those books, I'm sorry, editing Allie, I know you're hating me for having to put these book covers in. Both of these books were so soul character focused. Like it was about one woman and we followed every fucking inane thought in her head, which is like exactly why I like this author. It does get exhausting, but like I appreciate it so much. And this one, we're getting several people. I think we're gonna get interesting things to say about religion in medieval times, about how awful men are, about how sick and twisted abuse can make everyone, and power. There's like a sort of king. I don't know if it's a king, but he's like the leader or like politically up on the highest ladder in this town, in this village. And he's doing some weird shit that is like, what the fuck are you doing? So we'll see what happens. And also Ina, this woman who is not a lamb, I think she might be like a little bit occult, and I'm very interested to read more about her. Like, give me a woman, please. Wuthering Heights, I think out of all of these, this was the bust today, which makes me so sad because I am sure I'm gonna like this, but for some reason I was having a hard time catching on. It felt like I was running after a train and I couldn't like grab on. There were a lot of characters, which is always really confusing when you're reading writing from this old, because oftentimes they don't really signify who's speaking. They just say he or she over and over and over again. It's like, wait, which one of them is speaking? And there's like 2 Catherines, but they might be the same person. I'm so confused. There's also 2 Heathcliffs. I think I need to go back and like really dissect it. But as soon as it clicks, like who everyone is and what's actually happening versus like what's in this book or journal that this guy found, I don't know. I'm very confused. But as soon as I get a full grasp, I know I'm going to go on this wild ride. I'm pretty sure this was like very salacious back when it came out, and I just can't wait. Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be salacious for me, especially like when I've been reading this. Can you imagine what these people would say about Miss Allie? Then I started The Bronze Horseman, and oh my gosh, I think I only read 17 pages of this and 17 pages of Pachinko, but I'm like most drawn to these 2 out of all of them, Pachinko being a little higher. But immediately we have our main character and her family, and they're all so close in many ways. They live in like one room practically. It's in June of 1941. They live in Russia, and randomly Germany like decided to attack them. And they say Joseph Stalin, who's like a comrade. I don't know. I'm like, I feel so dumb because I know Joseph Stalin is shit, and I know Germany at this time is like the most evil shit to exist. But I guess I never really thought about Russia and Germany being at war, and I feel so stupid saying that. But like, yeah, I almost immediately am so in love with this family because they're all like, they seem like a real family. This writer's doing a great job of like these sisters laughing at each other. Our main character, I think, is 17. She has a twin brother, and he's all like, I want to fight for Mother Russia. And all of the adults, they live with their grandparents as well, are like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, what is wrong with you? You can't do that. We need to get you out of here so that you don't die practically. And so it's very interesting how they're doing it because the kids, they don't get it. They don't get what's about to happen, but all of the adults have seen this war before. Well, not this particular war, but they've seen war and what it can do to a family and a country. And so they're acting like they're at a funeral, and the kids are all like, what's the big deal? They're like thousands of miles away. And so I'm so sad because I already know shit's gonna happen that's gonna break this family apart. The brother's gonna end up going to war. He's gonna die. The sister's they're all gonna die. And I don't want them to. But then I try to remember like, wait, this is a romance. So maybe they won't all die? Question mark. I'm kind of scared to find out, but like I love that I started this because just knowing these characters, just in 17 pages, I felt so close to these characters. And like that's gonna get me to want to read it. And then Pachinko, oh my god. This one I just kept reading and I was like, wait a minute, I gotta move on to the next book. It's like supremely readable even though so much time has already passed. So many people have already lived and been born and died, which is insane. And I think I have to get used to this for this book because I get so attached to characters. Like this author's doing a great job of that. And then like the next sentence or in the same sentence, they will die. Here's a sentence. She had never loved anyone as much as her baby. And I was like, aw. Next sentence. At 7 weeks, he died of a fever. Jesus Christ. So we get introduced to this family and they're just so sweet and wholesome and they work so hard. They live in Korea and at this time, another thing I don't know enough about, Japan is like annexing them and I don't know anything about that and I feel so dumb. But like, should I just blame my teachers for that? I think it's kind of scary that I only took like 2 actual history classes in my entire education. And honestly, I think they were all just American history. I don't think I ever took a world history class. I took a lot. Like, why did I need 6 classes of civics and like American government? I still don't know how a law is passed and I don't give a fuck. This is what I want to learn about. I want to learn about like other ancient places because like, anyway, honestly, it's on me though because I'm 30 and I could have looked into this myself. But yes, this family is so sweet. The son is 28 and he gets a 15-year-old child bride, which was like, oh, gross. But like they ended up being happy and married and working hard and having children. And then he died and then she's gonna die and then on and on and on. I wonder how like far into the present this goes. I know this follows a sort of like surprise love story. Oh, I actually recognize someone's name on here. So the daughter of these very humble, hardworking family, she ends up falling for this really wealthy dude. I think she gets pregnant with this baby. He's already married, the son of a bitch. It says she refuses to be bought. I'm wondering what that is back in the 1900s. Instead, she agrees to marry this poor fisherman who is from Japan, which is very interesting now that I know a little bit about what's going on politically. It says her decision to abandon her home. Oh, I wonder what her mom's gonna think. Maybe she's already dead. Sorry. The decision to reject her son's powerful father sets off a dramatic saga that will echo down through the generations. So this is going to be a roller coaster ride, I think. And then I finished Deep End, which I didn't realize I still had so much to read. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to Sky Full of Elephants. I will say I always get really energized after I update my vlog. So maybe I'll read some more of this before bed tonight. But yeah, I had 22% left of Deep End. And I just, because it's an ebook, I was not aware of like how fucking long this book is. It's almost 500 pages, I think. And I think I said earlier, I took a few takes talking about this book throughout this vlog and I think I cut them, so I'm not sure what I've already said or what didn't make it through the edit. But I wasn't looking forward to the third act conflict and I was so right to not be excited because this was like so rushed and so forced and I hated it because it was cheap and it was literally such a blip in the story. Like, what was the fucking point? It makes me mad that maybe like some authors feel like they have to have a third act conflict and I would be okay if they didn't. And I think I really like this book because it was kind of slice of life. There wasn't too much of a plot apart from like 2 people falling in love and like figuring it out amongst a mess of like their friend being involved. But we learned more about her project, her like science shit that she was doing. We went through her on her journey with her diving. We saw her go to practice and competitions. And we saw her get fucked by this man. And you know, I will say, like, I'm not trying to judge here, but she said so many times, and like he said, and their friend said, and joked about how much she liked to be tied up and like all this kinky shit. This wasn't very kinky, was it? Am I? I read a lot of romance and smut, so she didn't get tied up once though, for the amount of times that they brought it up. I was waiting for it. I do like that in the beginning she said something about how like she doesn't like to use labels because, oh god, my battery's dying, come on. Okay, fresh battery is in. I think that was a sign that I need to make this more concise, but I'm not done, okay? I'll also say that even though like there's some things in here that I personally would like, I'd have to smack a man. Particularly, I would absolutely loathe to be told to repeat after someone. I don't know what it is about that. It makes my blood boil, the thought of like being told to repeat like a good girl after someone, I would have to fight every urge in my body to not smack this person who said that to me. But I will say, no matter what they were doing, if I liked it, which I did like a lot of it, or what I didn't, which yeah, some of it was really cringe to me, I loved how Allie writes these two characters because they love it, and it makes me love it that they love it so much and they love each other. And I saw a couple reviews of this today, and I saw a few people say that it was like insta love, or like they started hooking up really quickly. It is sort of like a friends with benefits to lover situation, which that's like my favorite trope of romance. This one, I thought they did it really well. I thought Allie did it really well. There's so much talk about them like seeing each other's eyes and like follow what they were doing in their peripheral, and like so much tension in that way. I thought it was great, like the build up for them talking casually and then making an agreement. I thought it was absolutely delicious. Just like eye contact in books, like before people are dating, that just does something for me. It makes me like have little butterflies in my stomach, like I have a crush, and it's just so good. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'll probably give it 4 stars. And definitely out of the books that I've read of Allie's, this is my favorite so far. I'm gonna try Not in Love next. I know a lot of people were saying that one is like too smutty for them. Sign me the fuck up. And then I read the first chapter of The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. It was like 21 pages, quite a long chapter. This book is so cheaply made. It's like turning a page sounds like this. Oh, that wasn't very dramatic. It's just like the page won't even open without almost ripping each page. Anyway, yes, we're following President Snow. I can't tell what age he is. He's like a senior at an academy before university, so I'm guessing he's like 17, 18, a senior in high school. It's been 10 years since they started the Hunger Games, and this is the first year that they are introducing like mentors into it. And so they are going to have all of the seniors at the academy be mentors. So he is like one of the first mentors ever, and he ends up getting to be the mentor for the girl for District 12, which is like the worst one you could get, because District 12 and a girl, ew. That was like the last sentence of chapter 1, and like we already know he's gonna fall in love with her, but we also know, and we're getting lots of hints about just how much he's obsessed with status and money. He, I think, lives in like the second capital or whatever it's called, the second district maybe, and his family is really like known generationally to be very wealthy and like up high in society, but actually they're so poor because they had all of their money in District 13 that we know was destroyed like long ago, even before this book. And so all of their assets were there. It got bombed. There was this whole war in the capital and in District 13 that was eliminated. And now they're completely broke, but they're pretending they're not. And so he is just, oh, I'm sad because he's just a kid. And I love it when stories make you think about that, about like what could have happened to make this child happier and like be able to just be confident in who he was and what status he was. I mean, it's gonna be so sad and tragic to see him fall in love and like see it not work out, and it's like I want to read about it. Sometimes I just crave some tragic love and I really don't get it, but I know I'm gonna get it in here because like I already know how the story ends. So I'm excited, and I hope that this author doesn't hold back, but also this is still YA. So, I mean, I say that, but some of the Hunger Games was a little tragic. Anyway, that was my rambling for this evening. Tomorrow is the final day of the experiment, and I am going all out. I have the day off. I already took it off before I knew I was doing this experiment, but now I'm going to be starting literally as many books as I can before I have to go out for the evening with some friends. So like a full work day's worth of starting 100,000 books. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Now, obviously, I don't think this is something that I would be able to do regularly, but like maybe every couple months, maybe I'll take a day off or like ignore all my friends on the weekend and just read for an entire day, like a bunch of shit. I don't know like what findings are gonna come out of tomorrow, but I thought it would be a great way to like finish it off in a total bonanza of chaos, you know? Also, I get to sleep in a little bit. Yeah. I just did a whole take and I didn't realize I didn't have my microphone plugged in. Good morning. I look a little rough, but I got some of the best sleep last night that I've had in so long. I got to sleep in a little bit. It's like 8:30 now. I feel refreshed. And you know what? It could be the result of the experiment. You never know. I don't think it is, but like, Maybe. Anyway, I have about 6 hours before I need to get ready to go out tonight. I want to start as many books as I can, and there's not really any rules like of the books I want to pick out. First, I have to have not started it before, and I don't want to spend more than, say, 30 pages on each book, though when I think about it, I've been averaging like 30 pages an hour these past like 2 months. What if I only start 6 books because like each chapter is 30 pages long? In my head, I would start like 100 books a day, so it'll be interesting to see what my count is by the end of the update. My hypothesis is that this is going to be very fun, but I think I'll get exhausted by the end of the day, like so much overwhelming changing from one thing to another, but maybe I'll love it, I don't know. But I think the knowledge of like I have the day off of work, so I know I could be working and instead I'm reading, I think that's gonna power me through and fill me with so much life and spirit. I feel bad that I've been talking so much shit about my job this past week. Like this experiment has really like put some negative energy on my having to be employed. So I need to do like another experiment off camera where I start to like my job again. But yeah, I don't want to chat too much. I want to get to reading. Let's get started.
Love me again, 'cause I'm drifting away. Touch my hand, 'cause I'm helpless, drowning in the sand. You say you hold my hand. You've always
All right, it is 3:18 p.m. and I started a whole bunch of books and I had a fucking blast. Who's shocked? Not me. I did have a little bit of a lull like around 12:30, 1 p.m., which is just like the mid-afternoon lull I get every single day because like I'm tired. But my friend Monster really helped me out. So I wasn't sure that I would have much to say about today. It would just be like a gimmicky kind of thing. It wouldn't be very experimental. I couldn't take anything from it, but actually I have thoughts. Again, who is surprised? I used to love doing try a chapters. It was my favorite thing to do because I get so intimidated by books before I've read them, even if and especially if I am excited about them. And so try a chapter would be a great way to like break the ice. But I've done a few over the last couple years and they just weren't hitting for me and I felt like I didn't enjoy doing it. It didn't give me like a proper insight. Maybe it was the books, maybe it was just the timing. But today I remembered why I love it so much because now I cannot wait to dive into every single one of these. I started 10 physical books and 2 ebooks. Of the ones I started today, the ones I'm most intrigued to like immediately continue in, like even like tonight when I get home, The Ministry of Time. Interview with a Vampire. Oh my god. I've also never watched the movie or the new show, so maybe I'll just have to do a whole video on this or just include it in a vampire video, which I have to do because I also started this vampire book, Blood on Her Tongue. This one was good. It wasn't like I was dying to continue, but like I'm gonna be including it in the vampire video because I think it's a Dracula retelling, but Lucy I think is the main character. So I don't know. I can't wait to slip back in the vampire shit. And then the first book I started this morning, Blood over Bright Haven, I cannot wait to read this. That first chapter was very action-packed, which it doesn't always call to me, but like this one invoked so much emotion. In this first chapter, this young man, I think he's like 20 years old, he's a part of some sort of nomadic group. They are so used to their members dying and their families dying that they don't even like blink when they hear one of them screaming that are getting torn to shreds by this thing called the Blight. And so in this chapter, he's running with his family and like his tribe, I guess, across this icy terrain, and there's this invisible monster for it. It's like a light. It's a blight. I don't know. I need more description of it. But it will like invisibly attack you and you are literally ripped to shreds. You have to keep running because you have to get to an end point where there's like a shield and like people can pass through, but this blight can't. And then you're in this city. It's like the Wizard of Oz or something. Why did I say that? I don't know. And out of all of the people in this tribe and all of his family, his brother-in-law, his sister, he's already lost his parents long ago. The people who helped raise him, his childhood friends, they die one by one. And he grabs his niece, who is like a little, I don't know how old she is. She's not old enough to run by herself. And he runs with all of his might. He escapes the blight and gets into this city. And as soon as he gets there, first of all, he's like grieving his family and his tribe. But these guards are like, yeah, he doesn't look strong enough to work. Let's throw him back. Can you imagine? He summons up some energy to be like, no, I can work. But then they look at his niece and they're like, nah, she's about to die. Let's just throw her back. And so he says that she's his daughter so that they can't take her. But I then read, because none of these I read the descriptions for unless like I was so nosy about what was going to happen. And this was one of them. They talk about someone we didn't even meet, Sayana, and she's a student at a university in the city. And she gets like an assistant and she's pissed off because the guy ends up being a janitor. And I'm pretty sure he is the person who we followed in the first chapter. I'm guessing people who immigrate into this city are only given like low paying jobs. I wonder if it's gonna be a romance. I want him to have some sort of happiness. I hope his niece does well. I don't know. I want everyone to fall in love. Okay, I'm sorry. And I think it travels like 10 years into the future. And she's like a witch. I don't know. I'm just so excited to go into this world. This one was the real standout. And then I recently purchased Mia's book, Sugar. Hi, Mia, if you're watching. And this, oh my God. In the first chapter, this girl finds out, it was like all of the romance books I read. Was it yesterday? Oh my God, what day is that? They're all blending together in this experiment. But she finds out that her husband is cheating on her with her best friend. And instead of like crying about it and leaving him, she stabs him to death. And so I did have to keep reading because I had to be like, wait, is she gonna tell her friend? Like, how is that interaction gonna go? So I read quite a few chapters of this and I'm excited to continue. Also, excellent writing. This is self-published. I'm like so impressed. And so I had to look at her newest book that's coming out called Shy Girl. This cover is just gorgeous. I got this on NetGalley. Thank you again, Mia. And this one, oh my God, especially after reading like Deep End, this is gonna be like a sad, toxic, maybe bloody version of that. There are some trigger warnings that she says right in the front, so like prepare yourselves. In this first chapter, our main character is pretending to be a dog and like she eats a birthday cake that this drunken creepy man gives her and like he's like, good girl. Sorry. Let me just read you the synopsis because like, oh my God. Lonely, broken, depressed with a serious case of OCD, Gia finds herself at a crossroad when financial troubles lead her to Nathan, a mysterious and affluent man she encounters on a sugar dating website. Desperate for a solution, Gia is intrigued by Nathan's unconventional offer. In exchange for living as his devoted pet, all of her debts will be erased. But the longer Gia is in captivity, the more animalistic she becomes. For fans of Night Bitch and Animal, Shy Girl is a harrowing tale of girlhood, survival, autonomy, and revenge. And I saw this comment on her Instagram that she shared. Someone, Brigitte, said Night Bitch found dead in a ditch. Oh my God. I need to read this ASAP. Also involving animals, this Blackwood's Blue Sky book I just got from Book of the Month. I started up with them because there are so many books coming out lately that have that damn sticker of like whatever book club they're in. And like, no hate to the book club. I like those book clubs, but you're ruining the fucking book cover. And so yes, Book of the Month also has it, but it's in the corner and they always make it match to something on the cover. And I think this was like really cute. This is a book about a woman. She's a single mom. She's not doing too great in her like extracurricular activities. She's doing drugs, she's drinking. That's what I meant by that. I don't know why I said it like that. And there were some great quotes about addiction or at least just using substances to deal with your problems, which listen to this. Here's a couple quotes strung together. That's when she made her mistake. She hadn't stopped. But the real problem was her bizarre sense of hope. Maybe somehow this time she would be able to suspend herself in that perfect moment when you've had enough to fly, but not so much as to be sick with yourself. Like, relatable. Anyway, I think this is a story where she falls in love with this very private man, but I think he's actually a bear. And so it's so funny because that whole bear man thing, I want to know what this is gonna be. And I already can tell the writing is beautiful. It's kind of reminding me of like the Crane husband or I don't know even what I'm saying. Anyway, I also started this book, Dishonestly Yours. This is by the authors, I think they're twins, like identical twins. Look how cute. These are the authors of the Addicted and the Calloway Sisters series. And I've been so interested in this book because like it's the beginning of a new series for them, a new group of characters. It's about two best friends that have grown up with each other and their families are like con artists. And so they've been trained to con from a very early age. And it was really interesting reading about how it's changed as they've gotten older as women. So like as girls, they're helping their moms con people. But then as they grow into women, they're somehow having to like sell themselves along with trying to steal from other people. I feel like there's going to be some interesting things to say about that. But one of the girls, not the main character, her best friend, is like so sick of this. We can tell something just went down. I wonder if we're going to hear more about it. And she's like, let's run away to a small town in Connecticut and live our mystic pizza dreams. Our main character, she's not over the con thing. She's not having a real hard time with it, but she loves her friend so much. She's like, I will go anywhere with you. And so they are in the midst of dyeing their hair to like find new identities. And then there's a knock at the door and it's her best friend's brother, who I think she's gonna fall in love with and bang. I only read the first chapter of this book, which was only 3 pages long, but even then I had a quote that I really loved. When will I escape from the past, or is that a futile task? An unbreakable habit, the negativity reared its ugly head to drag her down, but she quickly pushed back with happier thoughts. I feel like this is just gonna be a really uplifting story about a girl who's like really down bad, and then she picks herself back up. Good for her. I'm so excited for this cozy, like, slice of life book, and maybe I should do a reading vlog because I'm having some trouble with my, like, day job right now, or at least this video is trying to tell me. Maybe I'll have to get a few books where the main characters actually like their jobs. That would be an interesting concept for me. If you have any recommendations, kind of like Convenience Store Woman, that was another one that she just loved her job and people kind of looked down at her because she was just like a convenience store worker, but she had it like down to a science and she really enjoyed the predictability of that. That's some books that I need for like my soul and my situation right now. Please give me some recommendations. Cursed Bread. Oh, I purchased this. It's a library book. I read the first chapter and a half and I was like, I need it. This is a 5-star prediction based on a couple of YouTubers that I trust immensely. And I actually haven't read the synopsis, but in this first chapter, this is about a grown woman who works in a bakery. I think her husband's the baker. And she is so obsessed with this woman who comes into the shop. And the way that the obsession is described, it is so beautiful. And I know I'm gonna love this. And at the very end of the chapter, this woman like invites her over to like a party or something. But there were a couple times I reached for my pen to go underline and I was like, nope, I can't make that mistake again. This Fatal Kiss, it is so beautiful. Am I right? Is this the one where there's like polyamory in this? This is a fantasy romance. I didn't get too much in that first chapter. I'm having trouble even remembering it, so maybe it was just like too in the middle of everything, or maybe because it was only like 4 pages. But I think it's gonna be very fairy tale-esque. It's involving Slavic folklore, but I was a little intimidated because there's a whole page of like pronunciation guide. That's a little intimidating. Did I miss anything? Oh, the last book I started, Little Rot. In this first chapter, which was kind of long, honestly, we have our main character whose name is Ama, and she is leaving her boyfriend. I think they've been dating for like 4 or 5 years. She wants to get married. He doesn't, so she's broken up with him and she's leaving, and she's very sad about this because she doesn't want to leave, but like her morals are telling her that she needs to. But instead of getting on the plane to go home, she contacts her friend and she's like, can I stay with you? And her friend is like, yeah, and we're going out to the club tonight. There's this very like girlhood moment where all of these girls are getting ready to go out and they're talking about clothes and makeup, and I just love girly shit. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited for this. They go out to the club and she starts hitting on her friend, and her friend's like, what does she say? Her friend says, don't start something you can't finish. And then they leave together. But at the same time, Ama is noticing that her friend is getting all these texts. It's like 2 a.m, but her friend doesn't look happy. So I'm wondering what's going on there. There's a little bit mystery. And I did see that the next chapter is following Ama's ex now. And I think this is the book about like the underworld of Nigeria. So sex clubs, we're following some sex workers apparently at some point. I'm liking the narration style because it is 3rd person, so it's removed, but it's also deeply personal when we touch on each character. So I've already given this author a 4.5 this year. I read Pet last month and cried. It was the first book I cried to this year. And I just got Bitter so that I can read it later, as well as some of the other books from that video. I'm talking about too many things right now. But I am excited to start this one soon because, first of all, it was on my TBR for January and February. But also because it seems like it's gonna be a little messy, and like this book, was messy, and I absolutely loved it, and it was so much fun, but it was also heartwarming, thought-provoking, but like messy and hot. So I'm hoping and praying. Okay, it's getting very hot in here. I had to close the windows so I can talk without being nervous. I just have one more clip and then I'll be done. I gotta get ready. Okay, yeah. Okay, I need to wrap this up quick. Our friends are heading over, but I'm so glad I did this experiment, and if I could rank the days that we did, let me think. I think the most successful one, maybe I can't rank these very evenly because they are a little different. Actual scientists, if you're watching this, I'm sorry there was no like control group. Is that what it's called? I should stop talking. Let's just go over each day very quickly. Monday was alternating chapters, and I wish I could redo this because I wasn't as focused as I wish I was. I didn't read as much as I did, but even the little bit of reading I was able to do with my brain on that day, I know I love this one so much, and I will be doing this maybe for vlogging or maybe like on days when I'm just reading for my own personal pleasure. The chapter thing, it's just so great. It's like I experienced it today, Friday, as well, because I bounced after one chapter. But the Monday thing was going back, and it was wonderful, that recycling but also keeping things fresh. Day 2 was alternating format, and this one was the most successful. I read the most pages. I was the most engaged in the books that I was reading, even the ones that I started that day. I did not find it quite as fun as alternating chapters, like as quickly, but I can't deny like how much reading I got done, how much like thought-provoking things were happening in my head. So I definitely will be trying this again as well. Location, that was just not for me, and I found out a lot about who I am as a reader in the process. I like to be in a comfortable, familiar place so that I can concentrate more because my brain is just bouncing around. Like I can't take too much distraction in my environment. I'm glad I learned that. And then the 4th day where I alternated time period, that was amazing. And I think I'm going to be thinking a lot more about time, the setting, and when it was written as I go forward this year, because even just last month when I read so many vampire books, there was so much time elapsing in those books from ancient to current to future. And I just think that's going to be something I'm really drawn to in 2025, or something that I'm aware of or like reaching towards. So I just love that I did that, and I think I'll have to experiment more with time periods going forward. And then today, I just had so much fun, and overall, this experiment, I'm getting hot and I need to get ready. But overall, this was such a great time. I started so many books. I'll put the count here. Thank you, Editing Alley. I think most of all, this reminded me that it's fun to think about not just the books I read, but how I read them. So if you have any recommendations for other types of experiments I could do or that you have done yourself, definitely let me know down below. As well as if you are the kind of reader that reads multiple things at once, like please let me know how you do it. Give me specifics. I'm so nosy. How many you juggle at once? Like give me all of the details. I'm so interested in this concept, clearly. All right, I need to go, but thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was enjoyable or entertaining. I haven't edited it yet, so we're praying for something good. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.